All right, we will get started. Welcome, everybody. We're so glad you're here tonight. People will be trickling in. Can you all hear me back there? Okay, great. Just if I start talking lower, just let me know. But we want to welcome everybody here tonight to the Destination Imagination Parent Information and Team Formation Meeting. And I'm Stephanie. I'm one of the board members, and you'll see we've got a bunch of our board members. We've got Ken over there, Mo over here. In the back we have Sue and Lori and the other Stephanie. Really you have to be Stephanie to join the club because there's so many of us. But we're thrilled that you're here to learn more about DI. But we did want to ask, we always forget to do this, so I'm going to do it first. How many of you heard about us from your school flyers? Okay. How many heard about us from friends? And how many heard about us from social media, like Andover Mums or... How did you hear about us?
Dad told her.
Dad told her. Okay, that's friends. That's absolutely friends. You do know about this, or you want to know about this?
I'm only 4.
Oh, you're only 4. Okay. You can join next year. But that's a great introduction. DI is a program for kids in kindergarten through 12th grade and actually beyond. There's a university level for those kids who...
So there's a second grade?
There is second grade, yes. We can do it. Once you start kindergarten, you can be on a DI team. And DI, we're just thrilled that you're all here. And we're thrilled that we're hopefully going to be able to form some teams tonight. How many of you are in the K-2 age range, or parents of K-2? Okay. And any middle schoolers? Okay. No high schoolers, right? Just middle school. And then everybody else is elementary. And some of you probably have both. So DI, when we do it, has the K-2 is one age group, 3 through 5 is one age group, 6 through 8, and then high school. So there's 4 age groups. But what we're going to do tonight is we're going to tell you all about what DI is. We're going to tell you how much fun it is. We're going to tell you what the educational benefits are. We're just going to sort of go through. We're going to hear from 2 current DIers who are going to tell you what it's been like for them. They started when they were in Rising Star age in the K-2 grade level, and they'll tell you all about their experiences. And then at the end of the meeting, we'll have the opportunity to break into age groups and try to form some teams and get things started. But what is DI? DI is creative problem solving at its best. So you all saw some of the kids doing some of the skits. So what happens with DI is that there's an international organization called Destination Imagination, and it's worldwide. Every year there's about 100,000 kids from all over the world, all over the United States, all the provinces in Canada, and countries all over the world participate. I think they have 32 other countries besides the US and Canada that participate in DI. And what the kids are asked to do is they're given some open-ended challenges, and we're going to go through what this year's challenges are so you get a taste of it. And they give them the open-ended challenges, and then the teams use those open-ended guidelines to create a skit, and it is up to 8 minutes long. That's the maximum length of time that it can be. It can be shorter, and the best part about DI is that it has to be all done by the kids. Adults are allowed to teach skills. You're allowed to, if the kids want to make costumes and they want to know how to sew, you're allowed to teach them how to sew on scrap fabric, but they have to sew their own costumes. If the kids want to build a set, they have to be able to hammer the nails in and cut the wood themselves. If they're not able to do that, then they have to find another way of doing it. Hi. And so adults can teach those skills, and adults, of course, can supervise anything that has to be supervised. Safety comes first, but the kids have to do all the thinking, all the inventing, all the creating, all the script writing, all by themselves. For the little kids, you can take dictation and write it for them, but you can't come up with the ideas. For grades 3 and up, it's a competitive program. For grades K and 2, it's just showcase, there's no competition. And what that means in general is that we have a tournament in March. So the DI season has started, it starts now. As soon as the teams are formed, you can get started. And then in March, we will have a tournament, what we call a tournament. And then the kids who win at the tournament, at their local tournaments, then can progress to states. And then there's one more, what they call global finals. And we'll talk all about that later when it comes down to it. But right now, there is one tournament in Massachusetts that is already scheduled for March 14th. So they're gonna try to schedule at least one or two more. Also will be in March, on various weekends in March. So that's when the tournament will happen. So what we're gonna talk about now is what is DI, right? So as a matter of fact, one of our DIers, that was, what, kindergarten?
Yeah, I think so.
Second grade. Okay, second grade, really? Look very tiny. Anyway, they grow up fast, don't they? But this sort of gives you a sense. The kids, they make stuff, they build stuff, but there's two parts. So one part is the central challenge, and that's what I mentioned briefly, and I will show you this year's challenges and what the examples are, where the kids work on this open-ended challenge, build sets, build scenes. They all have to do research of some sort. They put together their skit, and they present this central challenge that they've practiced at the tournament. And then there's the instant challenge. And the instant challenge at the tournament will be brand new. They will have not seen it, but they'll get to practice it, practice instant challenges throughout the year. So every week, when you have your DI meetings, the kids will practice instant challenges. And what an instant challenge is something ridiculous like you have, 2 pieces of lasagna noodles, 4 mailing labels, 3 feathers, 7 pieces of paper, and 4 rubber bands, and you have to build a tower. And the tower has to stand for 10 seconds, and then you have to turn it over, and it has to stand on the other side. So it's something like that. And the idea behind these instant challenges and behind giving the kids a brand new one at the tournament is to sort of see how their communication is, how their teamwork is, and they're also just a lot of fun. So those are the two parts. And even the Rising Stars will have a brand new instant challenge at the tournament. So there's, they'll get that, and those are the two big parts. So what are the challenges this year? So this is the Rising Star Challenge, the one for kids in K-2. And in K-2 and Rising Stars, the challenges are always, they alternate between science and social studies topics. This year happens to be a social studies topic. It's all about community helpers. So if you are the parent or a child who's in K-2, your challenge is going to be that you're going to have to research and learn about all the community helpers whatever your community is. And then you have to interview one of them and create a story about community helpers helping each other. So the kids are going to have to build a set that shows where one of the community helpers works, and they also have to create a song about community helpers helping each other. They can use a tune that exists in the world and write new words, or they can make up their own tune and write the words. And then they'll have to put on their little skit about working to solve a problem. So they're going to have to actually invent a problem and have some community helpers work together to solve it. So that's the K-2 challenge. Now, for the kids in grades 3 through 12, there are 6 challenges that the teams can choose. Teams. Parents cannot choose, managers cannot choose, kids have to choose. And this is one of the first things that DI teams have to work on, is reading all the challenges and picking one challenge to work on. And they fall into 6 general categories: technical, engineering, service learning, improv theater, fine arts theater, scientific. I think those are all of them. So this is the technical challenge. So this year, the technical challenge is all about game shows. So the teams have to research game shows, and they have to create a story about a game show that has a host and at least one participant. You can have more than one. And they have to create a technical device that actually raises tension. Like think, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and what they do to raise the tension as you're watching. So the kids have to come up with something like that. They have to design what they call a gimmick, which is a technical device that does something with lights or sound or visual presentation to change something that happens in the game show. They have to reveal something like behind door 1, and they have to have a razzle-dazzle visual or auditory effect as part of the game show. So that's the technical challenge. That's what kids have to do for the technical challenge. But there's more. This is just a synopsis. You'll get more explanation when you actually look at the challenges. The scientific challenge, called Unforgettable, is all about studying. The kids have to study memory, human memory, and they have to create a story about a memory that led to a realization. And they also have to do some kind of technical device with something called a memory depictor, which will, of course, be explained in the challenge. And they have to also create a special effect. This year, it's very theatrical. Almost all the challenges require the kids to make some kind of technical special effect. But it's all about, they have to integrate in the scientific one. They can make up a totally imaginary story set anywhere in the universe, but they do have to integrate some of their research into their story. Above and beyond the engineering challenge, this engineering challenge is asking teams to build a structure in parts, and that they will bring in parts to the tournament and assemble it there. And the parts have to then, so it has to be a base and then arms that extend in some direction, and they have to place weights on the arms. And so there's scoring items for how much weight they hold. The weights can be up to 500 grams, and they can, there's very specific rules about it, but just they have to be able to put weights on their structure. And then they also have to create a story. Everybody has to create a story. And theirs is about something important that expands or grows or goes above and beyond, which is the name of the challenge. And their technical aspect has to be an expansion effect that happens to a scene or to a character or to a costume. The Fine Arts Challenge, Becoming Super, asks the kids to study comic book characters, and they have to create an origin story for 2 characters, one who becomes a superhero and one who becomes a supervillain. So they create their own characters, and then they have to use technical methods to enhance the decision or the situation or an event. And they are required to use stage makeup on at least one team member. So they have to study how do you use stage makeup effectively. And they have to also create a costume that uses technical effects to do something, anything that they come up with. So that's a Fine Arts Challenge. And the last 2, the Improv Challenge and the Service Learning Challenge, are a little bit different. So the Improv Challenge this year, the kids are going to be behind a screen. So the screen will be set up, and they're going to be all doing their whole presentation via shadows. And what they do, so improv is a little different. All those challenges that I just mentioned, the kids work on and they practice and they memorize their lines and they have a script. For improv, they have to research a couple of things. They have to research themes. They're given themes in the challenge. They have to research opposite themes like good versus evil. And they also have to research something called resolution tropes, which they're given. They're just sort of, is it a happy resolution? Is it a sad resolution? And then at the tournament, they pick one of those tropes. They pick one of those opposing themes. And then they also pick an inciting event, which is like something like a beach ball comes to life, a unicorn is galloping down the street, and then they have to create, and they're also picking at random a setting, and then they have a few minutes right there live to create a skit about integrating all of those kinds of things, all told through shadows this year. So that's the improv challenge. Which is a lot of fun. And then the service learning challenge, the last one, the teams are actually asked to do a community service project. They have to identify a need. They are not scored on what the project is or whether it's completed. They just have to do some kind of project and then create a story that integrates information about their project, but also has the theme of there's two conflicting characters who work together to solve a problem. So the community service challenge this year is all about solving problems, and they have to include in their skit a misunderstanding, and they have to show two viewpoints for that misunderstanding, and they have a technical device that they call a dispute depictor that does something to integrate the solution or help them solve this problem. But we've had service learning projects can be gigantic, and they can be small. We've had teams clean up Ava's space. We had the team that has been working now for 4 years on trying to get the Massachusetts State Congress to pass a resolution saying that the blue-spotted salamander is going to be the state amphibian, but they have learned that it's gotten rejected 3 times now, but they don't give up. So you can do anything you like if you're doing a service learning team. So that's just a real quick overview of what some of the challenges are. What are your thoughts? Sound exciting? If you were a kid, what one would you choose?
All of them.
All of them.
You confused them.
So how many of you are sitting there thinking, I want to do the fine arts one, or I want to do the scientific one, or I want to do the technical one? You don't get to say that to the kids. The teams get to pick. The teams get to pick.
But they all include aspects of all of that.
Yes.
So if your kid's a fine arts kid, or if your kid is like a technical kid, all of these challenges include all of those things. And kids so they can bring all of that into it. It's not like, oh, my team picked technical, but I really want to I really want to make art. They can. They still can.
Yes, every single one of them incorporates dramatic script writing, research, sets and props and designs, technical devices. It's just what the theme of the challenge is. And Ken, who's one of our teachers here at Doherty, is going to come in. Are you ready to come
I'm coming, sorry.
All right, he's going to talk a little bit about the.
We had technical difficulties.
Do you need some more time?
No.
Okay.
I'll need time at the end of this. I'll need more time to talk.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. I'll be brief, I promise. Welcome.
Out of the mountain, babes.
I have a stick. I have to do my thing. Alright, I'll stop it. You stop it. Okay, so anyway, welcome to my school. This is Doherty Middle School. I've been teaching here for 28 years, 29 years, something like that. It's scary. So I'm an educator in town. I've been doing that for a while. I've also been almost that long involved here with Andover DI. And even before that, my niece was involved in OM way back in the day. So I have a history. It's a sad, long history. No, not sad. Lovely, wonderful history. So I'm going to start with a question. How many of you have had this experience? All right, because I've had this experience. I'll explain mine, and I want you to see if you've experienced this too. Your kids in elementary school, right? And they come home, and there's this big project, right? And they have to work on this project, and it's very involved. And you sit down with them and work on the project and all this stuff. And then they hand in the project, right? And then about a week later, you get the grade back, and you said, "What did we get?" Okay, none of you are raising your hand, although all of you are like this, because you know that you've done it, but you're embarrassed by it, and you should be. No, but, right? You're not supposed to do it, but how can you not? Well, here's the thing about DI. DI has this thing. It's, right, and it was mentioned, it was non-interference. And that is an incredibly powerful thing. Right? It is a rule. Okay, it is a rule. Yes, I am a school teacher. I'm familiar with that concept. Middle school teacher. I'm familiar with that concept. But anyway, so non-interference is an incredibly powerful thing. It essentially means that anything on that stage came from them. Whether it be building or ideas or whatever it might be, it came from that group. And they have to say so at the end and all that stuff. And managers they can teach them how to do things, but they really can't tell them what to do. And that's a really hard thing to do, right? But it's so powerful. Okay? Now, I've been teaching a long time, and throughout that time, there's all these little catchphrases and things about education, right? When I was in school, there was a big self-esteem movement. I don't know if you remember that. It was like, we gotta help their self-esteem, and then at the end, it became like, oh, everyone gets a trophy because we gotta worry about their self-esteem, right? So, and then it moved on to like project-based learning. You might have heard something about project-based learning, right? You heard that phrase. There was an accountability movement, which gave us the testing, right? That was a big thing for a while. You remember that one? That was fun. And then more recently, it's been STEAM and STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Later on, someone added arts to it, and we all were like, oh, thank goodness, there's something in there that's artsy. And that became STEAM. Okay? So all these things. The beauty about this program is now, and again, I've been doing this program during all these things. All these movements. And every one of them I could say, oh, well, anytime there's a really good movement, it'll fit everything. Self-esteem, huge. But real self-esteem is when they do it themselves. When they can sit there and their little cardboard thing that's fallen over, and they sit it and they put it down there and they're like, that's mine. That's self-esteem. It's also, project-based learning. This is project-based learning. It can't get any more project-based learning than this. Accountability, being accountable to each other. Oh my goodness, right? Do you know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about. Being accountability to your teammates, right? Knowing that if it's not, right, no one else will do it if I don't. That is a huge, huge piece of accountability. And then this thing is just billowing with steam, right? It's got steam all over the place, right? So it's really important. The other things that they do, and again, how it works is, you'll hear people go, oh, we went to the State House and we did all these things and we're, the salamander or whatever. What is it? What was it?
Blue-spotted salamander.
The blue-spotted salamander. I was a salamander. I remember, kind of. Or some of the things that they showed you. That's not how it works. Like you're thinking, oh my goodness, my kid can never. What are you talking about? Right? Well, here's the beauty of the program. All these challenges are really hard. They require a lot of people to do them, but every level does them in their own way. Elementary school, it's about being cute. They know how to access their cuteness, right? They know how to project that cuteness. They know how to make that cuteness work for them. It's pretty cool, right? They know. And then they build things out of cardboard mostly, and they do what they can do. Right? Yeah. And then middle school, they start getting clever. Middle schoolers love puns for some reason. Right? And they love to be clever, and it gets a little more complex. And then by the time they get to high school, if they've been doing it, especially if they've been doing it all along, they get really sophisticated. They start getting into, again, like more high-end thematic things that are, and that just blow you away. And so, and I, as an adult, when I talk about my team, you know, I don't think about telling the stories about how that thing fell over and it was so funny, and they were so cute with it. I talk about the 20-foot dinosaur that they built that had the thing, and they won an award for this. But it takes, you know, it took them a long time to get there. And how do they do it? Well, they use what they know. This is a program where you can, whatever they are, whatever they're good at, they can find a way to use. Right? I had a kid who was a gymnast. He says, I want to do a flip in the middle of the stage. I said, okay, we'll find you a way. That's, you know, and then we're like, okay, team, what do you think? Can we get this kid, can we do this? Can we do this? Can we do this? Say yes. No. Okay, good. Right? We had the artists who just love to do these huge paint, right? Oh my goodness, everyone needs an artist, right? Whatever you are, you can find a way to use it in this program. Whatever, computer programming. She went to a computer programming thing over the summer. She came back, said, I'm gonna build a whatever, and then that became part of the skit. But it also allows them to figure out who they are. Figures out what they're good at. Because, again, I can tell my daughter what she's good at, but she's not gonna believe me. But if her friends are turning to her and saying, all right, how do we fix this story? Or how do you build this again, right? You're good at that stuff. Why don't you build it? Right, that's powerful. And so that's the kind of thing. And then of course you're gonna learn things. My son knows how to sew. And you know what? He just had a kid. He has a little baby, it's about this big, and he's learning that sewing comes in handy. You know, right? My daughter can drill like you wouldn't believe. She can take power drills and things and build all sorts of stuff with them. She's very comfortable with those. Then these are things that she'll go on to for a life. Like again, my daughter was a storyteller. She was always a storyteller. She learned how to tell a story here in this program. And now she's at, she's getting her degree in, creative writing, and she's teaching classes and doing all that stuff. But that's how it works. So that's the educational piece.
Yep.
And you're going to move on.
We're going to move on, yep.
Thank you.
Our next speakers are going to be the kids. So your instant challenge right now is to figure out which one of you is going to give you a little spiel first. Okay. So we're going to welcome Elliot, who's going to tell us a little bit about your experience with DI.
Hi, I'm Elliot. I'm in 7th grade, and this is my 8th year of DI. My favorite part of DI is that you can just express yourself in so many ways. You can build, create, paint, draw, all kinds of things. And you can just really show who you are.
Now, come on.
Hello, thank you all for being here. My name is Mel. I'm a sophomore at Greater Lawrence Tech, and this is my 9th year of doing DI with my team, the Shifty People. You're probably here because you're wondering if DI is right for you and your kid. I can't tell you that, but I can tell you how DI has impacted me in my life. First off, DI has given me the space and time to practice so many really important skills, like teamwork, communication, leadership, public speaking, risk-taking, and problem solving. Also, after a long day of school, it's wonderful to have a space and time where I can kind of stop thinking about homework and all that other stuff and just focus on being creative and having fun with my friends. I fully believe that for me, DI has been worth every second of brainstorming, every minute of rehearsing, every hour of trying everything to get at that one thing that just won't work, because when that thing finally does work, that's the best feeling ever. Also, this year I'm looking to assistant manage a Rising Stars team in order to help out a new manager. So that could be any one of you. So sign your kids up for a team and or sign up to be a manager. It's great. Thank you.
I could not have said it better. That is exactly what DI is all about. And what DI, to me, does is helps kids become comfortable coming and speaking in front of a large group of strangers and adults. Their comfort is what DI is all about, that they're willing to come and talk to you and say, hey, DI is very exciting. And so now we're gonna have Mo come and talk about some of the fun things about DI. Do you wanna let me stand back here?
I can do it. Okay. All right. Hi everyone. I'm Mo Johnson. This is my 9th year as a team manager and my 5th year on the board of Challenge Me Inc. So hopefully at this point it's pretty clear DI is an amazing educational program. It's full of all those STEAM vitamins we want our kids to have. I want to talk about what makes DI fun. And I think one of the best ways to do that is through pictures. So as I'm talking, you're going to see a bunch of pictures behind me. These are real live DI children. These are my 2 teams. You might recognize some of the kids in here. Ellie's over there. So if you ask pretty much any DIer what they love most about DI, they're going to say that it is the ability to use their own creativity to create something that's really and truly theirs. So one year that might be an angry purple hot dog with spaghetti string hair, which you will see in a minute. Another year that might be a big paper mache glittery rainbow flying elephant named Glitter Bob that can actually spit water out of his trunk. Kids love DI because they can bring the things that they love right into it. Whether that's art or building or whatever. One year, Elliot was really into, actually for a few years, Elliot was really into origami, and the team found a way to bring origami into their solution. So they can bring, this, as I'm sure Stephanie mentioned, this is not a robotics program, this is not a performance program, it's not a paint, like an art program. It's all of those things, plus anything else that they love. So it really kind of becomes whatever they're passionate about, that's the stuff that's gonna show up. And while they're figuring out how to make their vision come true, they often figure out that there are skills that they need to learn. So when they're little, that might be learning how to use a glue gun to attach different kinds of materials together. And when they realize that life doesn't entirely have to be about tape, it's amazing. They get a little bit older, and they learn how to use a drill, how to wire motors, and then older still, they learn how to use a miter saw. And once you realize that you don't have to saw wood by hand for 3 days straight, that is also pretty life-changing. They learn how to use programming, etc. And as they learn these new skills, all of that piles into their vision, and they just get bigger and bigger with their ideas. No, go forward. There we go. One thing that I love is to show kids growing over the years in DI. This is all the same team. This is Mel's team. So in 2nd grade, they took a bunch of paper towel tubes, jammed them together, wrapped the whole thing in tape, then painted it green, and that was a Christmas tree. 3rd grade, there's our angry purple hot dog. 4th grade, they created a cooler with these wheels that they invented that were designed to move better on a beach. Skip forward a few years. So this is 7th grade. For those of you that were here earlier, if you saw the big tree that could move, so they invented kind of a new hydraulic and spring system that could make something rotate in a way that nobody had ever done before. 8th grade, they reimagined a pinball system and built some very large things in my house. Don't worry, it takes a long time to get to that. And then last year, 9th grade, they started combining all of the skills that they knew. And so they were doing wiring, programming, sensors, 3D printing, math and physics, and all kinds of cool stuff. And all of that is because of that no interference rule. Our kids spend so much time hearing about the right way to do things, right? You go to school, here's the handout, make sure you follow the instructions exactly. They come home, they're trying to work on something. Oh, honey, let me show you the right way to do that. I have a better way, let me just show you, okay? DI gets out of the way. So, there's a story I love to tell about the very first year that I was managing. So my team's 2nd graders, along with one 1st grader, and they had made a backdrop. And they were trying to come up with a way to hold the backdrop up. So they took some cardboard tubes, some PVC corners, wrapped the whole thing in tape, and it didn't work. It kept falling down. and they couldn't figure out why. Now, as a manager, I could see exactly what the problem was. I had all kinds of ideas for how they could solve it. Not my job. I could ask questions. So, well, what's happening? Oh, it's falling down. Well, where is it falling down? Oh, at the corners. Well, what's happening? Oh, things are moving around too much. Do you have any ideas for how you might solve that? They tried a few things, none of them worked. We get to a couple of weeks before the tournament, and I say, okay guys, do you have any other things that you would like to try? Because you've been banging your head on this for a while. And one of the kids goes, oh, you know, I have an idea. Two of us aren't really doing a whole lot, so we could stand in the back and hold it up. And I'm thinking, thank goodness they're gonna have something that works. And then he goes, and we can do that by Velcroing it to our foreheads. So now as a parent, I had all the thoughts that you are all thinking right now. But as a manager, I took a very deep breath and I said, all right, let's give it a try. And so we got some headbands and we got some Velcro, and they tried Velcroing it to their foreheads. And it didn't work, still fell down. And in the end, they ended up holding it up. Fast forward to this past year. So they were working on this thing we called the hopper, which is, oh, how do I go backwards? Can I go backwards?
Nope, no, you can.
How do I go backwards? I need to show. Thank you. One more back, yeah. Sorry. All right, so the hopper, this little thing way up here. Its job was to funnel ping pong balls down into this rotating 3D printed thing that they made. And so it had a spring in it and a motor that was supposed to turn the spring to try to jostle the ping pong balls and help them fall down. So that's what they were working on. Go forward. There we go. So they worked on this thing for 4 months. Never worked. It kept getting stuck. The balls got stuck, the spring got stuck. They took it apart, they put it back together again. They took it apart, they changed the angles, they put it back together again. They added things in the middle, they took things apart. They took out the motor and replaced it with a stronger motor. Never worked. We get to the regional tournament, still doesn't work. One of them stood behind there and just turned the spring. And it got the job done. Enough of the rest of their stuff worked really well. They won, they qualified to go to Globals. They spent the next 2 months continuing to work on this thing. Still did not work. We get to Globals. The day before they're supposed to go on, one of these kids who's never wired anything in her life before this year is Googling, and she goes, I found this diagram on Reddit and I think it'll work. And I'm looking at this thing and I'm going, I have no idea what this thing does. But that's not my job. My job is to ask, is to say, convince me that you are not going to burn the place down. And they did that. And they cannibalized some parts from one of their other things and they rewired it and they changed it so the circuit could go in both directions. So the spring could go back and forth. And it worked. For the first time in 6 months, it worked. And they went on stage and it worked. And let me tell you, these kids were so proud of themselves. I think I was actually prouder of them. But it started, I'm not gonna ask you to make it go back, but it started back there, right? When they built the obvious thing, right? They built the thing out of cardboard tubes. It didn't work. I didn't tell them how to fix it. Then they tried the crazy thing, Velcro it to their foreheads. I didn't say, that's a crazy, stupid idea, try something else. I let them try it. And that gets us here, right? So these kids they're not daunted by a challenge, they're able to have fun with a challenge. They don't give up, right? And eventually it works. They try the crazy thing. They try this random wiring diagram they found on Reddit. All right? Okay. Oh, and I should say, that is because they learned how to have faith in their own creativity and because of the no interference rule. All right, I also need to tell you, being a manager is fun too. So 9 years ago, I came to this meeting. I sat in those seats. I wanted to learn a little bit about DI, maybe sign my kid up. And at the end, I was going, okay, this is awesome. I have to get my kid involved. I want to enroll my child. And then we're trying to form teams, and Lori, who's one of the board members, comes around, down there waving, comes around and says the magic words. If you don't have a manager, you don't have a team. And before I knew it, I was walking out of here texting my husband going, I don't know what I just signed up for. Now I run teams for both of my kids. And I have learned how to be goofy, how to be more creative, I've gotten to learn how to use all kinds of really cool tools. And I have gotten to be there for small wins, big wins. I've gotten to be there with them all along the way. And I will say, I think it's made me a better parent too, because I'm absolutely that parent that used to be like, let me show you a better way to do it. And I have learned how to sit on my hands and say, they can figure it out. You can figure it out, and they can. So, whether your kids are this age or this age, any age is the right age to start DI. And so if you are sitting there thinking, oh, my kid would love this, I have got to sign them up. It is my turn to say to you, if you don't have a manager, or preferably two, you don't have a team. So if you're sitting there, it has not crossed your mind before this very moment to think about being a manager, take the leap anyway. Even if you're scared, if you're sitting there saying, I'm not that great with groups of kids, like I'm not that creative, I don't know how to use a glue gun or a drill or whatever, do it anyway. CMI will support you, same way they supported me. And it's one of the best things, DI is one of the best things I've ever done for my kids, and it's also one of the best things I've ever done for myself. So that is my marketing spiel.
So thanks, Mo. And I think that is really the important thing is, I'm gonna talk to you a little bit more about forming teams and what's going on, but it's really about having fun. And I too have been involved in DI. I didn't start with this at the beginning, but my kids are 34 and 32, and they started in 2nd and 4th grade. And they claim that DI is the thing that changed their lives in the most amazing way. So my daughter is now a mom, and she has a 19-month-old, and I was visiting them last week. They live in California, but I was visiting them, and Leela, the 19-month-old, got herself stuck under the table, and she couldn't figure out how to get out because the chairs were in the way. And Alex sat down on the floor, and she said, you can solve this problem, Leela. You can solve this problem by yourself. And she started teaching her 19-month-old how to problem solve, and guess what? Leela found her way out by herself. And so, and my son says all the time that it just changed everything about who he is. He was, when he was in college, he was driving in a car with some friends. He wasn't driving, he was a passenger. And they were at a red light and somebody rear-ended them. And the kid who was driving started to just get really upset. And he's like, I don't know what to do when my father's gonna kill me. And Robert said, do you have AAA? Can I call your father? He just took over because he knew how to solve. This was an instant challenge. It was a problem that he had to solve. But unanimously, across the board, our DIers tell us when they get to, especially when they get to middle school and high school, if they've done DI for a couple of years in elementary school, they tell us that, boy, people don't know how to work on teams. They just don't know how to work on teams. We know how to work on teams. And they're constantly saying all the time that when teachers put them in teams, the kids who've done DI rise to the top and end up being the team leader because they know how to get other people to help them. They know how to delegate. They know how to work together. And it just goes all the way through college, jobs, all of that stuff. I forgot to ask earlier though, are any of you alums of Odyssey of the Mind or DI yourselves? OM, yeah. So OM is very similar to DI. It's a competitive organization that is no longer in Massachusetts. But yeah, so we also every year get a couple of people who come in who were alums themselves and who now want to get their kids involved. So what I just want to talk about, because it is true, we can form as many teams as we have team managers for. And we will, and Challenge Me Inc., which is the organization that supports Andover DI, will support team managers. We will do training, we will do phone calls, we will do anything we can to help you get started if you choose to be a manager. But we just want to give you a little what does a meeting look like? Because even if you're not a manager, you should know. So a meeting, the kids will come, and usually what happens is we recommend that you start meeting once a week for about an hour, especially with the younger kids. And you do some, in the first few weeks you play some games, you do some team building stuff, and then you might do an instant challenge and start to look at the central challenges a little bit. And then as the season goes on, then you still will do an instant challenge every week. Often there's snack, there could be some playtime. And then you start to work on the central challenge. And then over time, you might need to make your meetings a little bit longer because, they just start to get painting and then they have to clean up and go home. But the thing about DI that makes it unique and makes it different from, say, soccer, is that soccer practice is Tuesday from 5 to 6, and it's always Tuesday from 5 to 6. With DI, you can make it a little bit longer if all the parents and the kids agree, or you can change and have a second meeting on the weekends or whatever. But the meetings will look like that, where you come in, the kids will do something to get to know each other, maybe start with an instant challenge or snack, and then get to work on the central challenge. And we will help you every step of the way, should you choose to do that.
Also, since you mentioned scheduling, we don't dictate when you meet. The
Right.
teams decide when to meet. So all of you together say, okay, well, my kid's free on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Oh, everyone's kid's free on Thursday. Let's meet Thursday. Do you want to meet right after school, or go home and have dinner first, or whatever it is. You guys decide what works for you, which can be a blessing and a curse.
Right, and the most common times, I will say, the most common times that teams meet are Friday right after school, if that's possible, or on the weekends. So we have a lot of teams that meet Sundays, Sunday afternoons in particular, because there's not soccer and all these other things as much on Sunday afternoons. And then, as I said before, the season culminates in a tournament where you go and you watch, you perform, and everybody, all parents, grandparents, everybody's invited to watch these little performances. And you also watch all the other performances that you can. And that's how the kids learn. They see other teams, and they get excited about other people's props, and they talk to them. And the kids love talking about their props to other kids. And so that's the tournament. It's a one-day event. And we'll talk more about that as the season goes on. As I said, March 14th is one scheduled event. Usually what happens is, before COVID, we had like 10 regions in Massachusetts, and you were assigned the region closest to your home. Now we have fewer teams. We haven't recovered to the glory days of, Massachusetts used to have 700 or 800 teams, and the last couple of years they weren't even at 200. But if we have 2 tournaments, you'll get to pick which day, and usually if there's just 2, it's one on a Saturday and one on a Sunday in March. So that's, but right now, just hold March 14th. And of course, what is the cost? So registration is $145 per child, and that gets you the state registration, the national registration, and the t-shirts that every year we have a different t-shirt. So that's what is covered in that $145. So it allows you to pay the registration fee for the tournament, essentially. Then each challenge has a budget, and they range, I think, 225 is the technical challenge, and the other ones are about 150 to 175. That's not per person, that's per team. But, so what'll happen is whatever materials the team needs, all the parents will chip in. So we usually say it may cost somewhere between, on the younger kids' age, maybe $50 for the IC materials and the challenge materials, up to maybe another $100 for the high school teams. It just depends on what challenge they choose and how elaborate the props are. But that fee isn't a set fee, that's divided among the families, and they keep track of what they've spent. And all right, so how we get started and what Challenge Me Inc. does for the managers is, what we're gonna do now is break everybody into grade levels. We're gonna start with grade levels. And then hopefully we can form at least one team at each grade level. And then we'll have a Challenge Me Inc. person helping you to sort of talk it through and form teams. And once the teams are formed, Challenge Me Inc. will have a meeting for the managers that really gives you the nitty-gritty of how do you get started. as well as the fact that Massachusetts Destination Imagination, so there's 3 levels, DIHQ, the international headquarters, MADI, M-A-D-I, Massachusetts Destination Imagination, that runs the tournament, and Challenge Me Inc. for this area that helps everybody get started. And we will answer every single question that you have. We're always available by email, by phone, and we will also, MADI also will run a once a month Zoom call for managers to answer their questions and give them some additional information. There's one actually tonight that
My husband is out right now because we're at this.
because we didn't realize they were on Thursdays last year. So we scheduled this thinking that it was a Thursday.